see who's in the room. I've been having some weird technical difficulties. Any of my music, I believe, and I'm gonna double check to make sure. Yes. Okay. Make sure you can hear me because I really couldn't tell the way this software is working. It's great with technology while it works. The minute that we start seeming like we having the little issues here or there, it's like, we started acting like babies. Like, what's going on with all this technology? It's not working for us. They've made some wonderful changes here. I want y'all to make sure y'all liking and sharing all the ECC family, expanded conscious communities, because it's about us. It's about we. I see you, Miss Tia. I think she's going to be stepping it up, helping helping me on some of this technology and reaching out and connecting to people. And we got Mother White. Thank you, Mother White, Miss Mother White, for coming in the room. We had a wonderful, beautiful evening or afternoonish last Sunday. Met by the water and had wonderful stories. Yes, they were so beautiful. Hey, Robin. Everybody say, "Hey, Robin." It's good to see you, brother. It's so good to see you. If y'all in the room, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you coming from, make sure you just I see your comments. I know everybody else can't see your comments. A lot of people like to tap in and come to this space uh late, it seems. By the time we hit about it's 8:38 my time, 9:38 East Coast time. But everybody will start trickling in the room at 9 o'clock. At least it's not me trickling in the room at 9 o'clock. So it tonight, this evening is going to be wonderful. I would like to just a little bit of house cleaning, and that is that I'm thankful and grateful for you guys that are here with us. I'm grateful and thankful that many tap in, tune in, and you might not say much when you come into the room, or you may even watch in the replay. So if you're watching in the replay, make sure you leave a comment and set some intentions on what you desire or want when you come into this space. Okay, when y'all come into this space, set some intention. We want to do that this evening. Set some intention and know that we come in here for a reason. I remember when I had Christian on the show, and Christian would have a lot of his followers and his people come in, and he was like, it's like having an evening service. You have an evening service and everybody go check out your evening service. So I see you, brother John Thomas, Miss Gwen. It's good to have you. All right. I think we're gonna have a wonderful evening, and we're gonna not only are we gonna learn some stuff, but we're going to most likely be encouraged, uplifted, right? So I want to make sure that as we set intention on coming this evening and kind of clearing our minds, right? Open our hearts, and just knowing that, oh man, I need to cut that music off. I didn't know it was still going because for some reason the browser is not letting me know that that music's still playing. I'm sorry, y'all, because I'm pretty sure it was pretty loud. Anyways, I'm pretty sure y'all heard me, but we're not gonna waste any time here. Hey, Miss Wanda. Yes, 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 yes. As people trickle in the room, all the people that are expanded conscious family leaders, Dorothy Parker, y'all go ahead and greet some people in the room. I would like everyone right now at this moment just to, for the most part, I know you're sitting, right? I can see John Thomas is sitting in his chair with his laptop on his TV and his phone messaging. I know some of my people. But let's just open our hearts, right? Open our hearts for our dear guests, and that we will all be able to hear and be able to move forward. And one of the things that I remember hearing today, and we were talking about the news and what was going on in the news, what's going on in the world. And what the world wants you to believe is that everything is going wrong and it's nothing but chaos. The world wants you to see and believe that there's nothing but disorder. And there could be. But I'm here to let you know that we can energetically, through our collective consciousness, raise the vibration for this space, in this room, in this space. Last week we done some breath work. So just remember to, as we doing this and go through this, I want you guys to be intentional on your breathing, opening yourself up. And we have, she doesn't really go by this, but I like to, she earned it. So we have Dr. Carol Lawrence with us, and we're going to have a wonderful, beautiful time. So let's get on with the show. Are we ready? Yes, yes. All right, Miss Lawrence, here we go. And you're on.
Hi. Can you
Oh,
hear me okay?
we can hear you. I am so
Okay.
thankful that that worked. Let me see here. I'm going to do something to these screens. They've changed a little bit behind the scenes here. How are you doing?
I'm well. I'm well. I'm very excited.
Good. Let me see here. Do some. All right. I had to do some audio changing. Okay, you're there. Okay, I could hear myself, but I can change some stuff on my end to make it work for us. All right. So let's get into this. It's exciting. Oh
Yes.
my God, I can't believe like you're just so gorgeous and so beautiful of a person inside and outside. You bring it, bring it.
Listen, I've been on the planet for a minute, so I just welcome all compliments. At my stage in life, it's okay to be vain.
Oh, well, I'll tell you this. Some of us are blessed and come with that gift, and some of us use it, and it's okay, right? It's okay to be beautiful. It's okay. But anyways, I believe we met. I can't even take it back. I was thinking about us meeting. And so, of course, I believe you had followed Bishop Pearson a little bit.
Well, so yeah, he's he's been around for forever in my life. Let me say this. My mother was Pentecostal,
Mm,
PAW. And
mm,
no Pentecostal worth their salt does not know Bishop Carlton Pearson.
yep.
So he was a part of our life for the most part. My father was AME. So you can kind of just imagine what dinner was like. but the Pentecostals win. Like they're always going to win. So uh, Bishop Pearson was always there, and he was so much a part of our world that I didn't pay any attention to him really.
Yeah.
Like he was, what I mean? Okay. And then when the whole crisis thing happened with him, that's when I really noticed him, because before that, right, he's at the top of the mountain, right? He's the man. And to step down because of your beliefs really got my attention. And I had questions about this religious thing that we do. But this was a person who went beyond questioning, demanded answers, and then had the audacity to walk in his own truth at the cost of so much. And I mean, when somebody does that, you have to say, this is not a fly by night um, idea or ideology. We're messing with truth here, and that's what you hear people talk about truth, but very few people step into and live their truth in the face of being threatened and their livelihood and so forth. So that's my experience with him. And I just kind of followed, from that point on in utter amazement that one could lose so much and had to hurt. And I'm not talking about just financially, but it hurt devastates your family and you. And in the face of all of that, no matter what, he showed up. So that's, in a nutshell, my experience there. But I'm sure everybody else probably experiences that too. Yeah.
Where were you at in the sense of, because of course we'll get straight into this, and of course being a pastor for 30 years, when he was in that transitional state, you guys are similar in age, and so there, where were you at in that?
Yeah. I was a pastor, and there was no one to talk to about it
Mm,
because everybody hated him.
mm,
He was going to hell. So any questions that I had, to try to unravel what was going on, there was nobody to talk to about it. And as a matter of fact, when the whole thing came apart, I was in a women's conference. I will never forget this. And it was like this big announcement made, and it was so much hate in that speech that I thought, first of all, there's something wrong here, because one of our colleagues has been hurt, regardless of whether it was their fault, whether they were confused, or whatever, the worst you could think. We were not standing by and trying to help this person catch them, like, and I thought right then, I remember thinking right then, I want no more to do with this. I'm just like sick of this, because
wow.
it could be me. Do you know what I mean? It could be me. If you knew what I was thinking half the time, you'd throw me out. I had people would come from other churches to my Bible studies because I was doing it, a little new thought in there. Okay. I was stretching the boundaries quite a lot. I didn't say that, but I was doing metaphysical Bible studies. And I thought if somebody was aware enough to pick up some of the language and some of the ideologies that I was sharing and some of the perspectives, I'd be out. You would not love me anymore. So that's the reality. I think when you get to that place where you understand that standing on your truth means that you could take a loss, your friends, your everything, and you've got to make that decision as to how you're going to move forward. And it's all about God. But I don't want to get ahead of you. Let me just stay
No,
with you.
no, you're totally fine. The you know, the stream of consciousness and how we are, and being able to go into these depths and spaces. Um, Sometimes we're not allowed to do that, right? When we talk. And so that's what we're here for, because it's like a little bit of reflection to prepare people and get us ready for it's already happening. There's so much that has happened in history, but there's things that happen to us. And so, what people experience, because so in other words, what you're saying, stating is that you are already dabbling, right, in some metaphysical things, right? And it's like, was
Yeah.
it already in the air, right? Was that already, because think about it, he named his place Higher Dimensions. And I think Apostle Paul might have mentioned something to do with dimensions, but you don't really think about higher dimensions outside of the things that are esoteric, things that are metaphysical. And so his spirit was already in that space. But let's just kind of go back a little bit, since you see this, and he's on the top of the mountain, and pretty well known, you know mega pastor on television. He has this transition, and all these people and everybody, newspapers, and I mean, everyone is just coming unglued because of the space he was in. Although we've had new thought and metaphysics, and Rosicrucia and all that stuff has, in the religious space specifically, has been
Mhm.
around for centuries. The Christian church kind of shut it down. But like, so if we go back, you have been in ministry for 30 years, correct?
A little bit more, but we'll just say 30.
Okay, so more than 30
Yeah.
years. I think
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing. Kind of I mean, let's just go back a little bit. Where'd you get your start, like in ministry, before you begin to, if you ever quite deconstructed?
Okay, yeah. I like to tell that story because I don't want anybody to think that I'm all that deep and mystical. When I was really young, I had an uncle who was a merchant marine, and he traveled around the world. Not as, am I still with you? I don't know what happened.
Yes. You
Oh,
just
okay.
you just go and flow. I just kind of give you the stage, and I can go comment a little bit, right?
Okay, so that, as long as I know that, I just okay. So I had an uncle who was a merchant marine, and he traveled all around the world, not as a wealthy person. He was working on these ships, and that was the only kind of job he could get. But he went to the Middle East, and he encountered a lot of different ideologies. And because his childhood was so awful, he just could not accept God as an entity of goodness. So he absorbed a whole lot. And to bring it, make a long story short, when he came home, because he wasn't Christian, he wasn't welcome in a lot of the family home. Nobody really wanted to pay attention to him. So he came to my house. My mom was his sister, and he brought me gifts from the Middle East. He brought me books, and he brought me a book by Khalil Gibran. And I was 12 years old at the time. And I read it, and let me tell you, I didn't understand not one single word that was in that book. The artwork was weird, but my uncle gave it to me, and he just showered me, and he would send me things and just bring the, and I thought, I'm telling you, it's not because I was deep. I think I was the only one of the nieces and nephews that would listen to him. Like, I had good manners. So if he talked for hours, I would just sit there and listen, and others would walk away. So the seeds were planted then. When I came into ministry, that wasn't something that was a part of my training or even the discussion. So, I mean, I'm old school. So I came in the old fashioned way. And then maybe about 10 years in, after the old fashioned way, I went to seminary and, got all this education. And I think about now, when you want to know something, you go to Google. And now, what is it, Chat GPT and all that good stuff if you want information. Back when I was in seminary, we had to climb up the ladder in the stacks and get these books that were dusty. And sometimes my husband and I laugh about how we were coughing and sneezing because we were studying from these old dirty books. So when you reach outside of your little comfort zone or the bubble that you live in or the box, you start to see things. And the more you see, the more you want to see. The more you want to know. So my curiosity just like, and I'll just be honest. Okay, let's just be
Go for
honest. A lot of stuff that I was taught in church and Sunday school wasn't working. A lot of what I was teaching as a pastor was not working for me or for anybody else or other people. And what we do as Christians is we make excuses for the things that don't work.
it. Yeah.
If we believe in God and God is good and God is going to supply all your needs, but then there needs things go by and God doesn't show up on time, but you don't have to worry because God is going to be right on time. We've got an answer for it all. But I couldn't understand that we should have to make excuses for God.
Mm.
Uh, a lot of times I was disappointed, and you don't say, I'm disappointed in God or God let me down. You don't say that. But then after a while, you see certain things happening around you, and you think, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid and then I'm pouring it out for others to drink. There's a point of accountability there for what I believe and what I'm sharing with others. So that's the point. In the midst of my work as a pastor, I embraced metaphysical theology, metaphysical interpretation of scripture. And then I reached out to other sacred texts and started making comparisons and all of that. So that's how I got from there to here.
So whenever you were but you did 30 years. So tell me a little bit about those 30 years in terms of denominations and,
Okay.
you were doing some, you were actually crossing the line throughout that. We need to go back in time and tell some of those people what you were doing. No, I'm joking.
They don't want to
So,
hear. And yeah. I started out in the Baptist church. And I think the Baptist church is a beautiful, beautiful church. I do. But when I went to seminary, eh, there's hierarchies, different levels of affluence, shall we say, in
mm,
churches. And so I went to a mainline seminary, and it, there are other denominations there, and I was offered positions and opportunities in the United Methodist Church. And my husband was in seminary with me also. So we were offered opportunities, and things work differently. They're very structured, a little bit like the Catholic Church. So there are bishops that tell you where you're going to go and all of that business. So uh, it was easy. It was an easy thing to do because I'm in an institution. A bishop is going to tell me where I'm going to serve as a pastor. I don't have to candidate. I don't have to be approved or liked. I'm going to this church and that's it. There's perks with it. So you just go with it. Let me say this, and I'm very respectful of denominations and church in general. I want to let that be clear up front because I think that the church does serve a tremendously important
part
role.
role and part
Yeah,
of history.
yeah. In the and then the church will always stand because there are always people who need that level of religion. So in the idea of deconstruction, it's personal. We are never going to dismantle the church, neither should we, because there are people who need that. So I see that. And part of my growth is understanding. When I made the shift, so to speak. And I use the term come out of the closet. I'm no longer a closet new thought mystic. I am just that. And people will say, I had friends that said, "Oh, she's down. She's not saved anymore. She's going down this weird path." And I just kind of said, "Yeah, I guess so." I hope I'm all right. I hope I don't fall off the edge of the earth because of this. But anyway, um, there are people that still need that kind of institution, and God supplies needs. So I don't try to take anything away from anybody anymore. I used to. I did. I used to think, how can you be a thinking human being and just read the Bible flat reading? You could at least try to read between the lines. You should at least try to understand things. My initial way of soft pedaling it was when Nikes were big. So this tells you how far back that went. I don't know what's the big deal now in sneakers, but then it was Nikes. And I used to say, you've got to put Nikes on Jesus. You got to take those sandals off and put Nikes on them so you can understand, like, Jesus is God, and Jesus is what, 100% God and 100% man. I guess sometimes I got to remember the way we used to say things. But I thought, all right, if he's 100% God, that's cool, but I can't be like him because he's God. The only hope for me is to be like the 100% man part of him. So let me figure out what that is. And so I lifted the red letters out of the Bible, trying to get a feel for this guy. I stopped thinking of him as the son of God and said, this is a dude. This is a dude. And I just need to understand this guy and how you can put anybody on a pedestal, but how he got there. What kind of God put this God there? Unraveling all of it, and I saw a whole lot more. I stayed distant from Jesus for quite a long time because people would say that God feels this way about this, and I'm like, how do you know? And Jesus said it, but I can't find the place that he said it. So it was a lot of stuff that people make up, and people live their life and die that way. Okay, so maybe you didn't have choice because you weren't exposed. Now you have choice. You have the choice to say that I have the right to question something that doesn't make sense to me. And God is not going to strike me dead, because remember, God is good and God is loving and God supplies and all that business, right? Because I know those scriptures. I know them. I can spout them out in a minute. But saying them and living them and proving them in your life, that's a different thing. So I would say to people, don't you want to think a little bit more? But see, you take away people's their foundation, their comfort zone. And when you shake that, like Bishop Pearson did, you know, um, what am I going to do? I can't live like him because I don't have the courage to lose all of my friends. Are going to boot me out of the church and I'm not going to have anything. I mean, there's a whole lot to lose if you think of it that way. Um, let me just skip for a second over, or take a slight detour around religious trauma, and then I promise I'll come back. Um, I was in a fundamentalist church. This was before I was in ministry formally. And I'm in a fundamentalist church. And fundamentalists, my mom was fundamentalist. And so breathing is a sin. If you happen to cough at the wrong time or use the wrong toothpaste, I used to tease about, that's a sin. So I was in the fundamentalist church, and I was in a marriage that I wanted to be out of. And so I just said, I'm talking to friends, I'm going to get divorced. And that, I didn't know was going to cause me such heartburn. In short, I suddenly became a leper in that church. And I'm saying this and I'm being open about it because there are other people that are going through the same thing. And it may not even be just a fundamentalist church. It may be people within that church that you're in that have those ideas, and they will exclude you. And I always say I went from being a member to a leper. I could stay there, but I couldn't have any kind of ministry and all of that. And I'm in my early 20s at the time, and I thought, well, what kind of God would allow me at such a young age to make a decision that would cause me to be no more good to God or anybody else, because that's what I was made to feel like. No more ministry, no more nothing. And so it's experiences like that that made me question what I was being taught, because the one thing I could not question was the existence of God and the goodness of God. That was all I had to hold on to. If I lost everything else, I held on to that. Otherwise, in my understanding, in my everything that was in my subconscious mind, that's all I had. So I got the divorce, and it was horrible. It was horrible. Friends, people stopped speaking to me. And then I did an even worse thing. I got remarried again. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Well, you are absolutely no good to humanity on any level because you are second marriage, and some of you know what that is. You know what that is. And I remember leaving the church that day, and I said to God, I really don't know you the way they do. I don't know the God that they're talking about. So here's what's going to happen. I'm never coming back here again. And it's always been just me and you. Let's go. I had no church to go to. I had no friends to discuss or pray with anymore. None of that. My father was supportive because he was of a different denomination. My mother was not supportive. How do I navigate a relationship with those two without causing friction in their relationship? So sometimes uh, the teaching is the dogma and the judgment that we find in the local church. It puts you in a place where you're not able to move one way or the other. You're isolated. And I believe that people give up their life because of that kind of isolation. Who wants to be rejected? Who wants to be without friends? Who wants to be without support? Somebody that you can talk to. And the church often leaves people in that place. So I was always, always conscious of that throughout my years as pastor, not just what I was saying, because let me be honest, I poured out the Kool-Aid, like I said, so I had to deal with that. But I was also well aware of the pain that people were dealing with just simple life issues. And sometimes a Bible verse was not enough. And I kind of would say to God, where do we start here? Like, how do we, and it was always we, how do we reach people and help them live again? Because once you have felt a hurt so deep, you don't want anybody else to feel that. Once you have given up when you think that there's nothing else for you in this life, but then spirit comes along and lets you know that you're not alone. You want to help other people who are giving up to know that too, because uh, that can happen. Our teenagers, even younger than that, but there's a lot of life issues that cause people a lot of pain, peer pressure, and all of that business. And they have to have a place where they can believe and something to believe in. And that something is going to accept them without unconditionally. Okay, we talk about the unconditional love of God, but in most cases, when people are talking about the unconditional love of God, it is with conditions. So God will love you as long as you don't do this, that you don't choose this, that you don't choose a certain lifestyle, that you don't do a whole lot of things, and then it gets ridiculous because the rules get the list of rules gets lengthier and lengthier. So I just felt like if I have the microphone and God is in me the way I believe, and we are people of God, spiritual beings having a human experience, let's just move ourselves out of the way and let God have a say once in a while. It's not me saying this is what God thinks. And a lot of people will say, hmm, God wants this, and God told me to tell you that. And you believe it. Or if you don't believe it, there isn't something inside of you that says, hold on a minute, let me check with God for myself. So where I am now is a result of all of those feelings. And you know what? I did promise, and let me just take a quick break here. I did promise Dorothy Parker I would say hello. So I'm saying hello to Dorothy. Ah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I see the chat. And Tia, Tia Simmons. I see you on Facebook all the time. And let me see who else. I don't know if I can get the chat all the way down, but you know what? I'm sorry. I just promised people along the way that I would say hello to them, and I just want to do that. So,
Go
okay,
for it.
you go
No,
ahead.
it's all good. Oh well, don't worry. I mean, you about to get flooded with just welcome to the expanded conscious community, right? This is a big family. All of us, a lot of people have just jump on board. And one of the things about me is I just believe in community and I believe in all of us being kind of the light, all of us having stories and not necessarily just a single person having just that space. I kind of left that whenever I was with Bishop, and I told him before he transitioned a year before that we need to really focus on community and giving people space and passing batons, and just because of the fact that it's a big world and there's a lot going on with a lot of people, and these stories are very important. Your story is highly, highly important because there are a lot of people that will listen to this um, and hear this from all over the world. And it's amazing. That's one thing that's amazing, that this message and your speaking is going to affect people all over the world um, because it's very similar all over the world, especially when it comes to colonization and what happened with Western Christianity and what happened with even the story of, as I would refer to, the Christ. Um, because I'm seeing that Jesus guy even deeper than what we've been told.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
you know, and but we got to keep him. We have to keep him um, pretty much blonde hair, blue eye, um, and we have to keep him with a kind of a America kind of feel in order to keep people in the under the spell, if you will. But it's not it's not working too well anymore with the internet, with chat gpt, with people such as us doing this, and with other people who are watching right now. And so with your story, you've been all through that, and you've been through the church, but you've been teaching, right? And you still
Mhm.
do thing. And so what's happening? What has helped bring you through and really give you hope and beyond hope, and then you begin to know, and then you begin to see, and then you become more clairvoyant, and then you become more intuitive, right?
Yeah. It
Kind of take us through that.
for me, it's you decide what you want your life to be. You come to a place where it could be hurt, and that's the most familiar intersection that we know. But there's a nagging inside of you to be who God created you to be. And you can deny it. And some people deny it all their life. And some people will continue to deny it all their life. And that's okay because we have choice. We are always at choice. And I think that that is part of the strength of the way I teach and the effectiveness that I teach, because you don't have to do it my way. You don't have to do it anybody's way. The Bible says, and I start with that because most people are comfortable. So I'll meet you where you are, okay? We'll deal with the Bible. The Bible says that we are the temple of the living God. God lives within us. The Bible says that God created us in God's own image. Now, that's as personal as it gets. And that's okay, that's nice scripture. And that's, maybe you get to hear that a couple of times and then you go on with all this other stuff. But when it's time for you to live your life, that's the foundation, that's the strength upon which you make all of your decisions. If God is within us, I mean, the divine power of God, the divine, everything that the universe is within us. You've heard that. If everything is in us, then we don't need to look outside of ourselves to be validated, for our thoughts to be validated, for our truths to be validated. God has already done that. So, okay, so God created me in God's own image. There's something about, see, I'm dogged determined about things. Yes, the church tried to take my life away from me. That's the way I describe it. Yes, you tried to take my life, but you won't. You will not, because I am indwelled by God, or the Bible says you're indwelled by the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call the divine entity. When I came out of the closet, the New Thought closet, and I'm just learning and learning. It's language that goes along with it. It's words, and words have meaning. So if I'm indwelled by the infinite intelligence, then I begin to trust what I say to myself. I begin to believe that maybe it's okay for me to think certain things. Maybe it's okay for me. I was never a judgmental person, ever. The church says you're supposed to shun this person if they do this, if they live a certain way. You shun. That didn't work for me. And I didn't allow anybody to convince me that it should. At best or worst, sometimes I would be quiet because, hey, I got a job. But then how long are you going to live with that? How long? So you come to a place where you consult with yourself, which is the God within, and you make a decision. Uh, Coach Malachi said in the very beginning, he used the word intention. What is your intention? Do you intend to live the way you want to live? I had a dream about the kind of person I wanted to be. I met somebody like that. I felt like I either evolved or put together the pieces of what I wanted. I had to read more. I had to understand more. Nobody had the answers I was looking for. How do I get to be what I really believe I can be? How do I make that happen? How do I get the information that I need? Well, I knew all the theology, but, I had all these Bibles. When I first, quote, got saved, I got all the Bibles. I had a Ryrie Bible, I had a uh, Thompson Chain reference, all of them, a Schofield Bible, all of them. But I noticed they all were study Bibles and they all said the same thing. They all had the same opinions. They all had the same interpretations. I started thinking there's something wrong with that. So everybody on the planet has to think. God doesn't have any more imagination than that we all are thinking and doing and believing the same way, judging people. Now, here we have people that are different, but we can't accept them because they don't believe what this little group of people over here believe. So you get to a place where you get comfortable and bold with the questions, and the answers, the pat answers, are no longer enough. You have children and you don't want them to come up in the same kind of box that you were in. How can God bring you to be everything you can be if you're living in a restricted way with restricted beliefs? So I began to read, and, I was a psychology major, so some of this stuff wasn't all that odd either, because you get to think a little bit out of the box, and it's nice outside. It's nice outside the box because the more you seek, and the Bible says, seek and you'll find, ask and it shall be given. I just take it as word, and if I want to know more, I dig out more. So that undergirds how I proceed with teaching and sharing. It's not judgment. I don't force anybody to believe anything. If you're okay with being in the box and you're comfortable with that, that's fine. And I'm not going to put you down for it. But I'm not. I'm not. And there's a whole lot of people out here who are not. And as you said, this is not new. It's been around for centuries. It feels new because of technology and communication and all of that business. But the other thing is that I believe that we're in a shift right now where things are moving and changing a bit more quickly than they have before. I don't know what the reason for that is, but I do know that we're in a time of shift because the knowledge of universal laws and things of that nature are right and in your face now, and a lot more people are asking a lot more questions. I don't think that's an accident. I don't think that's just what happened. I think that we are absolutely in a point of change, and people are feeling uncomfortable about where they've been and where they're going, and I think the fear factor. I just did a 3-day live on fear in our lives. And the 2 of those days were devoted to fear of success. And when you look at it and really take it apart, they're just little common things that keep us from being successful and being who we are in all different ways, because all we need is to know that it's okay. It's all right. People expected me to say that you shouldn't be afraid and, to come down on the reasons that we fear. We are afraid of things. That's natural. But we can make ourselves unafraid. We can put things in a certain perspective and say, my intention is to be thus, and my partnership with spirit, my relationship with spirit will allow me to see the lie that's coming at me, will allow me to see that great big fear is just like little gremlins and I don't have to worry about them. I mean, it's choice. It's looking things in the face and trusting yourself, your intuition, that what you're being told from the inside is absolutely divine in its origin. That makes sense.
Mm, it's beautiful, right? You're in a space and in a room where we are all open and ready, and we've been through things. A lot of people been through things, and um therefore you are bringing words that really help other individuals with their thoughts, with what they have going on. So thank you for bringing the words out. Sometimes it's hard for people to actually bring out the words that they feel, and your words resonate. And so you were speaking on some of the choices and what people choose, and everybody within this community, because I'm a little bit more, not necessarily harsh, but I'm not into, I'm not on, I mean, to be honest, I'm not into any level of church or churching or or things of like, there's certain pieces, and when people use the Bible, I see the Bible more as a um ancient text that have wisdom, right? That you can use. But the stories are stories. And
Hmm.
some of the stories may have elements of truth, but in terms of what happened, but 9 times out of 10, I'm here to tell you, in my understanding, most of that stuff is just allegories and, parables, and it was never intended originally, before King Jamie got it and wrote in 1611, or put it together in 1611, Council Nicaea and all that stuff. Recently, I was just digging deep with Dr. Dorothy last night, and we just looked at some of the divine science, and
Hmm.
then I started getting a little deeper and looking at some Rosicrucianism, and I've been finding some really ironic things, in the sense that, at the same, all those things happened in the same era in 1611, when the Bible was kind of put together, if you will. There's a lot of other spiritual stuff that was going on, and it's essentially, to me, it was more of a power struggle over people's minds and people's beliefs. And the title, essentially, of my show, and everything about me, is Beyond Belief. Because I really love, one of the biggest things that stuck with me, from Bishop Carlton, is he had a statement he would always end with, and he would talk about questioning your beliefs, right?
Hmm.
And how do those beliefs add to or subtract to the quality of your life? Why do you believe what you believe? And how do those beliefs add to or subtract to the quality of your life? We just believe, we believe things. Sometimes I slip a cuss words, but I won't do that to you. My fault. It- it's just because, like, we believe stuff that honestly, a lot of the stuff is stupid. Like, for me, where I'm at now, it's like when you sit back and you like, we did it. It is like I remember the Easter sermons, and it was like they would sit there, and like, for literally my whole life, I remember they would do the same exact thing with Jesus dying on the cross and the stone rolled away, and they would just get deep into, and people would get so emotionally connected to really actually, like, my father's a pastor, and to this day, like, literally, I could sit there listening to him, and literally, like, he talks about the Bible, and I swear he was there. I swear the way he explains it, he was right there watching it. And you know what I mean? It was right there,
Hmm.
and I seen it. And that's what it says. And, I get it. I understand, like, after so long and so many years that this stuff becomes a part of you. And it's not that you just believe it, but you want to believe it, right? You want to believe it because you have to believe it. Because then if I just begin to ask questions, right? When you think about beyond belief, it's like everything's belief. Yeah. But to question your beliefs is really difficult, right? And us in this space, most people here, we've been questioning, asking questions, and now we're ready to expand, or we are expanding our consciousness, and now we're entering into the quantum realm. We're understanding that there's techniques of meditation and breath work, and all these things are able to connect us closer to, right, our divine self, our own self, and
Mhm.
learning and understanding that God is within. And I say God is within and without. You know what I mean? Like, God just is, right? And you don't even have to use the term God because it's so confusing and diluted, right? Even though it's fine if you do. But, you know, moving forward, like, where does mysticism and the mystic, because I'm a mystic 100%. I am I'm a proud one. Like, I think I need to get like t-shirts and put proud mystic on it, you know, and I would put like no, and it's the woo woo if you want to call it that. But I'm a proud person that looks at that space and that era and that time, and it almost seems like that's the time and the era and space that all the scriptures and things they talk about, but yet though it's kind of like real cute and light, and so what do you think when it comes to
Okay.
like the mystics and the Bible, and how like the how does that relate to
Well,
now?
your community is in a marvelous place because they're willing to question. And that's the first thing, because if you're not willing to question, it's only because you're afraid, if I let this go, what else do I have? And then I've been told that anything outside of this is bad, or I'm going to go to hell, or, I'm going to be no good. So that's why I'm a little bit softer in that way, because I do understand a person's fear of not knowing. Now, I'm comfortable with ambiguity. That's just a personality trait. So if I don't know what something is, I'm going to peep in there and see, whatever. But I know that a lot of people are not that way. So you have a group of people that are like-minded. So they are not weird to each other. You can ask questions of each other and be okay. But
There's
there
some
are
weird
other
no, there's some weird
well,
ones.
but there are others who are at the place where they are so afraid to question. And I understand where that fear comes from. Everybody, and nobody can take the fear away from you, for you, or talk you out of it. I believe you have to meet a point in your life, like a personal crisis. And I'm not talking about bad luck, but personal crisis where you are willing to say, I need another answer. And here's another thing: what you believe about God matters in terms of how you move through the transition or the transformation. If you're afraid that God is not going to be pleased, and you may not know it, but you got this little thing in the back, maybe I shouldn't do this, maybe God doesn't like that, you're not going to do it. So it has a lot to do with mastering your mindset, which is another thing that I teach about. Mastering your mindset. What do you think about God? Now, I think personally, I believe, there's people that believe that God is everywhere. Some people think God is out there somewhere, and you got to say a prayer and connect. And the thing about that is, if the words aren't right, or you're not living right, you're not going to make the connection. Okay, so then you're out of luck. I can't live with a God like that. Yeah, I just can't, because First of all, I know me. I look okay, but I'm raggedy. I got some raggedy. So I can't trust a God out there because I might piss him off with my raggedy self. So my God has to be bigger than my raggedy, than to be concerned about my little raggedy. So I got that. I said, okay, God's not out there, God is in here. So if God is within me, God understands my shortcomings. So I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to fall on the altar and stay, for 3 Sundays in a row trying to get forgiven. I don't have to do that because I'm created in the image of God. So where I'm going, the mistakes that I make, anything that I'm doing, everything is as it should be.
Oh,
The experience that I had that hurt me so desperately in the church had to happen so that I could be who I am today, so that I could do the work that I came here to do. I used to say that when I get, when I get myself together, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to tell how the church treated me. Now, all of that was that and I told anybody who would hear my story, I'd tell them. And they never, all I wanted somebody to say was, you didn't do anything wrong. It's okay. Nobody ever said that. So I'm carrying this hurt for years and I'm going to write a book and tell it. But I got to wait till certain people die because I don't want to tell it while they're still living because I don't really want to hurt them. Okay, well, after a while, I started thinking, why do I want to tell the story anyway? Do I want to tell the story just to tell the story? Because there are a lot of people, in the last 20 years, were doing nothing but tell all books. They were telling what pastors were doing this and doing that. What difference did it make? People make mistakes, they do wrong things. Putting it out there did not help. I didn't see that. So I thought, okay, so you don't need to write a book about that. But then as I grew spiritually, I understand that yes, you need to share your story. You do need to write your book, but the book is not about what happened. The book is about recovery. And if you can't help people recover, then you don't have a story. It's not over yet. It's you're standing in one place. So we do have, to me, the beginning is understanding who God is to you. And then from that point, you can proceed with your life. From that point, you can ask questions that contradict the God image that you have. Now, if there's too many contradictions, maybe you better check on that image and see what that is. And I'm not talking about the image of a man or a woman, a male and a female God, not like that. I'm talking about the attributes of God. If God is a loving God, then God is always loving. If the situation that I've gone through is wrong, is it evil? Is it a devil out there that's doing it to me? No, I see things from a higher spiritual level now. I had to do this so that I could develop this. This had to happen so that I could be here for you now. I have a course called, it's about let the child speak, let the baby talk. Let's call it baby talk. You came here in this world to be, to experience life, but to experience life as a spiritual being. And as such, you light the way for yourself and others. So to be that means that you need to understand God. Of course, we don't remember what happened before we came in, we breathed our first breath. We don't remember that. Some babies do. Some, my daughter remembered a whole lot of life before she got here. And I used to look at her and think, where did she get that from? But then I understood she had not yet forgotten. So we come here with a purpose to do certain things and to be certain things. But then we come into a world like Don Miguel Ruiz talks about, and domestication, he calls it. I call it indoctrination. Um, we call it colonization in life, in politics, and everything else. We we are told, we're taught to think and feel a certain way. And it's easy to lose the God piece. It's easy to lose the wisdom, but then there is intuition. But we're taught not to trust intuition, or intuition belongs to women and not to men. We're taught a whole bunch of crap that causes us to fail spiritually. We sit down and say, well, listen, what will it take for me to become what I need to become? I need to find the God that created me and spend some time there. We get in too much of a hurry, by the way. We want to be useful and whatever. The ego, I don't know that you talk about the ego that much, but we have to set the ego aside. I have a little note that I keep right in front of me on my screen, and it says, Spirit, how do you want to manifest yourself in this? And so everything that I do, every live that I do, every course that I teach, everything, the question is always, how do you want to manifest yourself through this? What language do you want me to use? What book do you want me to use? I can use the Bible. I can use Tao Te Ching. I can use the Bhagavad Gita. I get tongue-tied on that one. But whatever you got, I can use it because God has taken me there. There's a thread of truth. There's a reality of God that runs through all of ancient text, all of sacred text. You can put them together. The Bible is, and I mean this respectfully, but the Bible is the same as any other sacred text. If you want to use that, that's fine. But they all speak to each other. I read Rumi, and I have hundreds of Rumi recordings out there. Rumi was a Sufi Muslim. Now, in my experience, I'm from West Philadelphia. And coming up, I was always afraid of Muslims because they were always angry. And that's not how I see Muslims around the world, because this goes around the world. I'm simply saying, in that little corner of the world, that's all I knew, there was a lot of anger. And I didn't want to be a Muslim woman because they didn't look like they were making out too well. And I'm far too independent to be that subservient. So, I mean, I'm just honest about it. If I couldn't do that. So that was something that I stayed away from. But Spirit, knowing where I'm going, had to deal with all of the incorrect things in my head, all of the subconscious detrimental things and judgmental things. That was one of them. And so I met Rumi, who is his birthday, his 817th birthday was September 30th. And I did this big thing, big celebration for this poet, Rumi. And the reason that I did that was because reading Rumi helped me to see God in a way I never saw God before. And so that's my example, that we can stay in the Bible if you want to, but there are other places that you can go that might show you not a different God, but the God we know in a different way. And so Rumi's religion, he was a Muslim, and he was a Muslim scholar and jurist, and his father was that, and so he was like a big deal in that. But he couldn't deal with the same things that you and I can't deal with in Christianity, and he walked away from it. Now, that's just painting as a broad brush, but I'm saying that to say that he said that his is a religion of love. And so he presented God through every imaginable scenario of love that you can imagine, including the relationship love, eros, between a man and a woman. And first time I read it, I thought, I don't know about this guy. But then I said, wait a minute, listen to him from a bigger space. He said, mine is the religion of love. There is nothing greater than that. You and I will say God is love. Is there anything wrong with trying to relate to God in that way beyond those words that say God is love? Well, what is love? And you can then begin to talk about that all day long. And then you realize that you've talked about God all day long. And so when I enter into that kind of understanding, it is nothing but seeing God bigger and bigger and bigger. And when you can do that, you can offer that bigness of God to others that need a God beyond the one that they know. The death dealing God in the church is just that, death dealing. But what about the life giving God? Can you express the life giving God? Can you say that I don't have all the answers? People will say to me, well, what's the metaphysical meaning of this particular verse or that particular verse? As though the Bible is the first thing and everything else is compared to it. No, I can't give you the metaphysical meaning of all of those scriptures. It's not word for word. What I can give you is an experience with God. I can shine a light that you can see your spiritual way, your way, not mine, better. I can show you, they say, are you a healer? I can show you where healing happens. I can show you where sickness prevails. It's up to you to make the choice as to where you want to be. You think that's an easy choice? No, I don't want to be sick anymore. I want to be well. We're taught to be sick. We are convinced that if you do this, you're going to be sick. And you talk about sickness. Well, what about it's a mindset shift in embracing the perfect health that we have been given. Yes, we're going to get issues. We're going to break down because we have created things in our environment that aren't consistent or compatible with life. Yes, that happens. But once we become more conscious of those things, we put down things that are detrimental to our health. It's a mindset thing. It's a mindset mastery. It's mastering our mindset in alignment with the divine. And we're all familiar with that term alignment. Don't ever get away from it because that's where the magic happens. When we bring our consciousness into alignment with the consciousness of God, when everything at that point of decision is lined up and not in contradiction with the divine love on any level, the divine intellect on any level, that's the point the magic happens. And we need to be, or we have the choice to be, that consistent and that much in partnership. And I know the term is creating our own reality, co-creating our own reality. That's what it means. In the church, that doesn't work. You say you pray, which is another thing going down the road, but you pray and then you sit and wait for God to do it. No, we are co-creators. We're in a partnership with God. God has God's part to do. We have our part to do. If we sit on our backsides, God is not going to do our part. The thing is not going to happen. If we have a desire, and I'm going to call the name of, well, you're familiar with Neville Goddard. Neville Goddard is a perfect example. His teachings are a perfect example of being co-creative or the co-creative process. He says you see the end from the beginning. You decide, you have an intention, how you want the conversation to go, how you want the project at work to go, how you want everything to go. You decide that. And that's your job to decide. Now, you're not just deciding from some whiftiness, you're deciding from the divine within. You're using the intuition, the divine common sense, so to speak. Once you are in connection and in relationship with God that way, you're able to trust the decisions that you have in front of you. And then God's part is to, as Neville Goddard calls it, connect the bridge of incidents that will bring you to that place. And let me just be, I can use an example. And this is popular, and it kind of works. Everybody wants to be a billionaire. I just am marvel at that. You everywhere, all over YouTube, everybody wants to be a billionaire. I think it's even like a song or something about that. And I remember, um, I am not financially astute. I had to put myself through a course on financial literacy. I was not raised to have to worry about money. I just wasn't. Just didn't happen that way. My dad gave me everything I wanted. Now, he might have gone broke doing it. I have no idea, but that's the way I was raised. Well, all that's cute until you're on your own and you don't have financial literacy to help you out. So I had to put myself through that. Finance is a spiritual thing. I was lacking in that. So I had to learn that. $1 billion, I couldn't imagine. Now stay with me because this is important. $1 billion, there's just no way I could imagine what $1 billion looked like. I knew people had it. I heard about it, but it was not something that I could resonate with. Okay, so let's bring it back a little bit. People wanted $1 million. And I thought, okay, let me create my financial course around millions of dollars. And I had to learn how to work with all those zeros. And I made up little math things to make me work with the zeros. My intention was to be financially literate on the at least the lowest level. The bridge of incidents was that I learned, or certain things came into my space that I could pull together, make this course and do it. I found YouTube videos. I found things and books and ebooks and what's that other, the audiobooks that helped me do that. Those were the bridges of incidents that got me to a place where I am not a financial genius by any means, but I'm sure better than I was. So that's what I mean. That was the end that I aspired to, and God put things in my in place and in my way to help me get there. Now, there are, when it comes to that being a reality in people's lives, amassing or manifesting, I can use those words with you, manifesting anything, you have to have the mental equivalent for it. That's Emmett Fox. You have to be able to be equal to that which you want. So, in other words, if you want to have millions of dollars, you have to be equal in your mentality to a person that has those millions. In other words, you have to learn how to take care of millions. You have to know, first of all, you got to know how many zeros, how many zeros are there. Can you balance a checkbook? If you can't balance a checkbook with 5 figures, how are you going to balance your checkbook with 6 or 7 figures? That seems like a small thing, but that's a reality. And that's a spiritual law that doesn't change. God doesn't change it for you or for me or anybody else. 1 + 1 is 2, no matter who is doing the math. And it is the same when you have more. So the mental equivalent is that God is saying, look, I'm giving you everything. I'm giving you all the tools you need. That's my side. I'll give you all the tools you need, but you have to adjust your mentality to be able to use those tools to get what you want. It's no magic, although I love to use the word magic. I always say that's where the magic happens. But to be honest with you, there's no magic in it. It's universal laws that we learn how to use to our benefit. And I don't know if I'm getting too far ahead. You have to let me know if I'm okay. So let me I don't know how much time I have, but I do know I want to share this with you because this is really important. Like the mental equivalent by Emmett Fox is like it's right up there with the Bible because it tells you in very practical ways how it works. So let's go back to the money thing because that's a good example. Everybody knows that's kind of, it's kind of safe ground to stay on. So let's say you want to have several $1,000,000. So you have to know how to keep it. Because if you don't, I mean, we all have heard of people who won the lottery big and then they lost it and they ended up broke. Okay. It's because we simply don't know how to handle the money. So if we don't know how to handle a little bit of money, we're not going to be able to handle a lot of money. The only difference is it'll just take you longer to spend a lot of money, but when you get going, you'll be broke quick. So the mental equivalent, the money is not going to come to you because it may come, but it's not going to stay because you don't know how to take care of it. So we have to develop within ourselves the mental equivalent of learning how to take care of that which we are asking. So, in other words, whatever you're asking for, you have to accept everything that comes along with it. So, if you want the man who is really drop dead, I mean, that he's everything you thought he would be, or the woman is everything you thought she would be, you got to take everything that comes along with them. And they don't wear a sign. They don't say, I'm crappy over here, but I'm good over there. You don't, so you have to take your time to say, listen, I want this, but I have to take everything that comes along with it. Now, how do you do that? You try to find out what's in the package before you grab it. I don't know why I went there. I'm sorry.
No, that's good.
But it's just whatever you're asking for, higher consciousness, yeah, means higher responsibility. You now know more. So now you have to behave like more, right? It's like, who was it? Bob Proctor. He talked about vibrations, and levels of vibrations, which I just say it's levels of consciousness or whatever. And so you want this, but you want to behave here. There's a gap. You have to meet at the level, you know, like who's in your inner circle. If you have people that pull you down, you got to do something about that. Jim Rome said, I love this quote. He said, "You're the average of the 5 people around whom you spend the most time."
Mm,
That should shake you up. That should really shake you up. If you're the average of the 5 people around whom you spend the most time, you're the average of their intelligence, their finances, everything that these 5 people are, you're the average of all of that. Say it's not so. I dare you to check it out. Now, it's going to be scary because you'll look and say, wait a minute, because I did that. I said, wait, I'm in trouble because these 5 people are not getting, you know what I mean? You got, now, I thought, what am I going to do? At the time, I wasn't even living in a place where I could reach out. I didn't know anybody. And so, I'm good at creating stuff, right? So I said, all right, I'm going to line up my friends on YouTube. I business people. I said, I got to connect, whether it said the average that you're around. It didn't say I had to have lunch with you. So I looked at scholars and business people and I would listen to them and they became my companions. And I said, okay, I'm leveling up until I get some real people in my space like that. But I'm just saying that our level of consciousness and growth is our responsibility. It's not going to happen overnight. It takes work. And once you start working it in yourself, you lose the energy you may have for getting other people to elevate their consciousness. You because it's you want to be that so much, and you realize the threats to being at a higher level, the threats that are there, and it becomes more important for you to be who you came here to be than to acquiesce to anything around you. So you begin to make choices about your inner circle and places that you go and the things that you let come close to you. Even with your temperament. Your temperament is a reflection of what's going on the inside, right? So if you can cuss somebody out in a minute, that's kind of a hint that you need to elevate a bit, right? So, okay, so we all get angry. We certainly do. We all piss each other off. We just do, right? But at that point where you're ready to let somebody have it, you're saying, okay, I could do this. I'm not going to go to hell. God is not going to be mad at me for doing it, but I'm going to experience a spiritual setback. And I don't want that because I have worked too hard to get to this point. We're going to go up and down spiritually.
Mhm.
You can't help it. But sometimes, like, I'm not going to do it over something stupid, right? I'll let you have it. If that's, if cussing you out will take care of the situation for the moment. Okay. But now I gotta go get back up to where I was spiritually. You know what? You got this. Just go. Like, I'm on to bigger things now. So now I don't know where I went with this. Did I answer your question? Did you even ask me a question?
You It's exactly what was supposed to be. Like, I've had conversations with you, and that's what I believe that the people really need it, because the thing is like, we've talked and we had discussions about deconstructing, and my thing is, I'm into deconstructing reality. I'm into looking at our whole entire lives and our whole minds. The religious side and the Christianity and religion, all that, as far as deconstructing it, I don't. I'm starting to believe we don't really need to look at that specifically and be like, okay, yeah, I'm deconstructing. It's like, no, it's like a mind mental thing, and there's probably some trauma in there, but there's trauma within all aspects of your life. So it's like, am I breaking this down to break it down just to be like, okay, no, they were wrong there, no, they were wrong there, no, they
Right.
were wrong there. It's like, I think the goal overall is spiritual autonomy. Like,
Who who do you want to be?
yeah,
How do you see yourself?
yes.
We can when we look at religion, that's a huge thing. That's a subject, let's say. But the important thing, the thing that really matters is who do you want to be? I'm not talking about your job or anything like that. I'm talking about when you walk, are you do you see yourself in your walk? Who are you? When you walk through the supermarket, do you feel that do you know who you are when you're there? When people see you, who do they see? What do they imagine? Now, I know people are going about their own business and they're not looking at you, but there are some who are within yourself at any given moment. Are you comfortable in your own skin? Can you just be okay no matter what people say, tell you what you should be doing or what you shouldn't be doing? Are you the person that you want to be? I wanted to be the kind of person that they say was not thin skinned. Listen, I wanted to be the kind of person that when stupid happened around me, I could level up spiritually and mentally and let it go by. I wanted to be the kind of person that could lose an argument because it didn't really matter. I didn't want trivial things to matter to me. Not whether this we should have at church. You're going to argue about whether we should have spaghetti or chicken or pizza. Those are the kind of little arguments that we get hung up on and things that we are important and who's doing what. That doggone Facebook timeline, that thing does that will make you stupid. How are you going to know who you are looking at other people do crazy things all the doggone time? Everything that we engage in mentally, the television shows we watch, the music we listen to, the people that we associate with, the timelines, all the different social media things, they're there for us and they're wonderful. They are wonderful if you use them to help you become who you want to be. I was opinionated. I had an opinion. I had a strong opinion about politics and this and that and the other thing. You know what? It dawned on me. I can't do anything about it. And really, at the end of the day, how much does it really affect me? But yet ex- I've spent so much energy on things that don't affect my family and me and what I'm going to have for dinner and how I'm going to live my life next week and how I'm going to accomplish the things that I need to accomplish. Hold on a minute. S- Disengage with stupid. Disengage with things that you can't do anything about that don't matter to your life anyway. It's distracting you from being who you really want to be if you know who you want to be. Like I said, I wanted to be number one, the kind of person that doesn't have to always win. I want to be able to walk away and say, I can't convince them. Okay, that's you. Because I have other things I need to be concerned about. I have 4 lives a week. I need to be prepared for each one of those. I need to be prepared to come and deliver what I promised. I don't have time to worry about what's happening on Facebook. So, and I'm not saying you're there. I'm saying that's how we have to put things in juxtaposition and put ourselves first and say, well, engaging in this, will it help me be who I want to be? Is it okay for me to go to this place? We all need recreation, but I'm very protective of my spirit. I'm extremely protective of it. If somebody wants me to participate in something, I look them up. I make sure that I know who I'm talking to or who I'm dealing with as much as possible. Because if you hurt me in some way, and I'm not even talking about, being physically, I'm talking about if you hurt me in some way, if you bring me down in some way, that's my responsibility. That's a choice I made. I'm responsible for being who I want to be 24 hours a day. That means that there's a lot of alone time. I don't have a big circle of friends. I don't have all of that. But that has to be okay, because if I am evolved in my consciousness, I've got to live like that. It doesn't, I could show you books. When I first came out, I had books. There's a lexicon that goes with everything. So I had to learn the language of expanded consciousness. I had to learn how to put the words together and all of that. They just words. If I'm not going to live it and believe it. I remember when I first encountered Neville Goddard, the guy sounded so weird. And I thought, who the heck? But then I listened, and I was able to connect with his language and the way his thought processes went, until I could do it. I could hear him, and it just flowed. It just flowed. Spirit, show me who I need to be around, who I need to understand, what information I need to have. Show me how to fill my spiritual intellect, so much so that I see a nutcase coming. I hear what you're saying that doesn't make sense. So I don't have to get knocked down to the ground. I see it ahead of time. And then you'll have spiritual experiences that people say are unexplainable. I have mentors. I call them my mentors. So other people call them guardian angels, or however you may encounter them. That's part of what I accepted to move forward in the way that I know how to fulfill my purpose in the earth. So there are other people who have spirit guides, and there are others who say, well, I don't believe in all of that. Well, okay, that's fine. I know they're out there. I asked for the ones that would help me do the job I needed to do. Give me the guidance. If I'm going to guide you, I have to feel strongly that I am divinely guided myself. So, next.
Ooh, that's so beautiful. I appreciate it. It's so beautiful. I'm just sitting here and I have conversations with people, and oh my gosh. I hope you listening. Let me see. Miss Rose, Tia. I start calling some of my people out. I have there's people that I know that we can go through different things in life, and I always feel like those who may experience something in life, and then you question it, and then you ask someone questions about it, and then you muddle on this, that I think it's okay, like that you are really wanting to understand it. I appreciate you. That was so beautiful. To sum things up, I know people may be kind of inquisitive because I sit from pastor to mystic. I just thought it was cool. Um, understanding the mysteries, right? What is a mystic to you?
Okay. And I'm glad you asked me that. A mystic, and I'm going to demystify it and take all the mystery out of it. A mystic is just a person who, by contemplation and self surrendering to a higher power, believes that we can obtain unity and be totally absorbed in God and the deity. Mystics are people who simply believe that we can attain spiritual truths beyond the intellect. So, very simply, first of all, I believe that I could know God and communicate with God beyond that which the Bible tells me that I can. I highly respect the Bible, but it is not everything. I can find God through it, but I can also find God and relate to God and understand the divine world without it. Do you know what I mean? So people that the one question that people would say in terms of salvation, right? And they said you can't be saved unless you believe in Jesus Christ and you get baptized or whatever, the process is. And then the first thing people would say is, well, what about the people that have never heard about Jesus, would never, whatever, and can they be saved? And there's never a good answer. Some people have answers and other people just come up with stuff. The mystic says, first of all, we are not going to limit God and the understanding of God and access to God by any of these means that you're talking about. The mystic says, for example, I get up at 5 a.m. every morning. I light my candles, and and I have a little fountain thing that I do. I have created my worship atmosphere. I go there at 5 a.m. and I have my spiritual disciplines, whatever the ones that I've created for myself. I do that. I've created activity mentally that I know help me to become in relationship. I'm going to hear from God during that time, or I have the assurance that I have connected with God enough during the time that I spend that what I need is either in my head or will be there shortly. So there are times, and what exactly to be specific about those experiences, I would probably need to come on another time. But a mystic says that I know that I can connect with God and I will be so totally absorbed and I have access to God in every way. And I don't need this book to tell me and this person to show me. I can connect with God myself. And to me, to take that posture answers every single question about what happens to people if they never read the Bible. Well, you get it. Why would you even ask a question like that? Of course, there's people who never read the Bible. So, you, with your little arrogant Christian self, because you were lucky enough to be born in a Christian home, you're going to go to heaven and they're going to hell. What kind of sense does that make?
Right.
That, I think in the beginning, well, there must be, I got this book that's good. They don't have it. Well, either I'll share it with them or they have another way, or God is God enough to have another way to reach them. God doesn't need my permission or my evangelism to get to people. God is like pretty smart. So if I'm over here in the United States and there's a whole lost tribe of people somewhere else, I kind of think God knows how to get to them. So my energy and my purpose is to get as close and absorbed in God as humanly possible so that when I encounter a situation where God wants to manifest God's self, I can move my little ego self out of the way because I've been practicing, because that's part of my discipline at 5 a.m. for years and years and years to be able to do that so I could be of use to somebody so that God can be manifested, made known through me if I can manage to get my little self out the way. And it's something you have to do all the time. So,
If a person is going through, I'll make this it, and then I'm gonna bring you back. Probably the beginning of the year. It'd be good, January. So, if a person's going through something, how do you think, as from the mystic and from a clairvoyant, if you will, because of course you're working with spirit guides and clairvoyancy. Um, if a person's going through something in life, it's very specific. I know people go through things, but there's certain things that are very specific. Whether it be divorce or it be um, finance, people that are really coming into to themselves, trying to figure things out, and thinking about situations that I hear. Um, transition. Um, Speak to the transitions, being that we can wrap it up with that in terms of people going through experiences in life, but yet though they're getting deeper spiritually, right? They're
Mhm.
learning the metaphysical tools. I've talked to Brett about breath work, and I've talked about different people online, and we're learning and growing, but at the same time, people are experiencing levels of transition. And so for me, I believe that that's the best thing ever is like if you're experiencing transition, yet though you're doing this work, that is the place to be versus just experiencing transition, but you're not paying attention. And so it's just everything is just going to hell and then whatever the phrase is. But transitions, and from a metaphysical slash intuitive, as you feel on your heart.
So so you want me to answer that? Or you
Yeah,
gonna tell me more?
give us, or either answer or give us give us some words that for people that are going through transition. What if they're, because sometimes you can feel like what is this? Why am I going through all this? And what should I be doing? And sometimes people can be paying so much attention to the situation
Mm,
that 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 creates trauma. But if you if you look at that trauma, you can use that particular thing, right, as one of the biggest transitions that help you become even more so. Because one of the things you go through all this deconstructing and you leave the church and it's like, oh wow, I've left and I'm starting to feel free. But now I'm really able to actually ask the question, who am I? Now I'm able to actually experience certain levels of transition. But now do I write a book, or do I write a do I start a
oh,
podcast, or
okay.
okay, I'm doing that. Like I'm going through things. People are going through things, but how do they really lean into this and hear, right? From this. And you kind of tapped on it a little bit because you talked about when you got up in the morning and preparing yourself for it, for your day so you could be of service. And so um we talked, of course, church, and you really done a phenomenal job. But the last thing was I just was speaking to there. I know people in this on this live are going through transitions, and I know for a fact, we used to pray, right? And some people may still pray, but they may pray different. But I tell people that we have to elevate this. We have to raise the frequency and vibration, right?
Mhm.
And even teaching people how to, because Neville Goddard, of course, using that some of that mysticism, Kabbalah.
Mhm.
But I tell raising the frequency, right? And I would sometime like last week we used some breath work, you know, to change that feeling you going through a situation, and you can instantly begin to change that situation within your body. And I believe and know that that begins to change your frequency and vibration. And as you do that, actually, the universe is listening, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And you can begin to have various, you know, I had a situation before this live started, and it was like, oh my goodness. And I'm good. I'm really good at it now. Where a situation happened, and I don't go into this situation. I'm like, okay, all right, we're going to use that. We're going to use that situation. I'm kind of answering my own question, but I wanted the last thing I wanted the Dr. Carroll's like um voice on transition and where people are at and how they are to raise that frequency, right?
Okay, so it's going to sound like I'm oversimplifying it,
No, I like
and and I am in a way, because we're very um doing. We're all into doing and accomplishing and making things happen. We're all very smart people. Okay, let's start with that. We're very smart people, and because we're created in the image of God, so we have the intellect of the divine. Depending on how much we allow ourselves to use it, we possess it. So we can do things. So when we are transitioning, say from uh, the church to freedom, I'll use it that way. Don't be so quick to think that you've got to do things. You've got to get there. Now that I'm free, I got to do this. I know I'm supposed to write books. So now let me sit down and write this book. But what am I going to write about? Just stop for a minute. The Bible says, "Be still and know that I am God." That's like, be still. I got this. I got it under control. Rest. Because when you have come through the religious experience that many of us have come through, we are wounded and we're tired and discouraged. Even though you're great on your job, you're doing wonderful things, underneath, you can still be wounded and weak and not able to cope, because you put that side of yourself aside so that you can do. Now you've made the transition has to be complete. Stop. Get your relationship with God in the way it should be. You knew that there was a God and you knew God was all powerful. Take a moment in your life to experience the power of God. So now you have a knowing. That's what knowing is. When what you thought is revealed as a reality. A good prayer is very simple. It's really simple. God, I know nothing. Now what can I know? Just let me know somehow. We know about signs, we know about cards, we know about astrology. Use all of that. God can use all of it. God can use a person who's into music to reveal God's self to you, because that's how you hear the voice of God. How do you hear God's voice? It's going to be different than the way I do or somebody else. How do you hear God? God, this is going on. I don't know anything. What can I know? And do nothing until you have a knowing or you have a feeling. That's what we have to be comfortable with. Having a feeling is okay. I think about the times you said, I had a feeling that wasn't going to work. That was God telling you it wasn't going to work. It wasn't happenstance or coincidence. That's how God speaks to us through us. We are the channel. Open the channel to receive the divine knowledge or the divine knowing. Be still and know that I am God. We rush all the time. So we made a transition from the church to spirituality, and now we got 2 weeks to be deep. No, we can be quiet and notice how God is speaking to us differently than before. My husband picks up synchronicities in a second. I mean, he'll say, "Oh, that's this and that's." I am not aware. I don't pick up synchronicities at all. That's just not my. It just I don't get him, but he does. And I watched him, and I said, "Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay." So now I'm starting to notice them a little bit. What do synchronicities mean to you? How is God speaking to this triple number or this event or this song that I just heard? Or a sign that you passed on the highway that you never noticed before, and it says such and such, or there's a cute little something on there that will lift your spirits. God is always, 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 always trying to be in communication with us spiritually. Our spirits have been calloused, calloused because we've been bombarded with craziness. We've been bombarded all of our life. Like, again, uh, Don Miguel Ruiz talks about domestication. Domestication has calloused our spirit. So the channel, the natural channel spirit that we have of communication with God is all clogged up. We have to learn how to let that flow. What does it feel like to flow with God? What does it feel like to be in meditation and breath work? What does that do for me? I mean, I had to work with that. That was hard for me to sit and do breath work. I'm like, wait a minute. I gotta read something. I gotta do. No, you don't. No, you don't. That book is going to be there. What you need right now is to learn how to quiet your spirit so that spirit can speak to you and you can have an aha moment. Oh my God, I can't believe I heard spirit like that. I'm going to share this with you because I guess our time is running out, but I want to share with you the odd ways that spirit will speak to you. I love music. I love mostly instrumental music. The other music is good and the voices, but I get carried away with the voices. So I love instrumental music and I absolutely love Kenny G. I mean, to me, Kenny G's saxophone simply is God, that which comes through it. And I saw him in concert one time, not physically, but I watched him and and God was saying, watch, watch what's going on. And as he played, he got lost in what he was doing. And it was simply he moved and God blew.
Mm.
Like dancers, the dance does the dance. The person surrenders to the dance. They surrender to God doing the dance. And so I see that all over now because I recognized it just like with sports, the athletes, they are crazy amazing with their talent. But can you imagine how that happens? We call it get in a zone. It's losing. It is the ego consciously saying to yourself, I'm getting out of the way now. I've done all I can do. I've practiced all I can practice. I'm just getting out the way and let it flow. So when we make the transition, don't skip the first really big step, getting used to allowing God to flow. Get used to not having to have the answer. Get accustomed to not knowing what to do next. That way, you get to see how God works in your life. And it happens one or two times. I'm not talking about years. When you slow yourself down and you allow God and you invite God to flow, something happens 2 or 3 times and you just notice and you notice. And then all of a sudden you go from notice to knowing. And then you have confidence. And then that book that you wanted to write, you know what to write. Maybe it wasn't what you thought, or maybe it has a different twist to it. And then you sit down and you write. I'm going to tell you, I wanted to write a book all my life. I was a little girl and I used to fold the papers over, staple the edges, put the little tape on it. So I actually had a book that I was writing. That's all I wanted to do. But I got a lot of criticism, blah, 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 through the years, and I didn't do it, whatever, whatever. Finally, I sat down and I said, listen, I'm getting older. Okay. I need to do this. And I was in a place and I did it. And I have 5 books on Amazon now. 5 books. I just let God write the books. And guess what? Not a single one of them has to do with the trauma that I went through. I'll get to that. I'll get to that. But what the first book I wrote was the 10 Commandments of Preaching for preachers only. Where did that come from? I know what I was doing. I can tell you, as I sat down to write that book, I felt like God was saying, this is what I want preachers to know. This is what I want preachers to know. And I thought, okay, now wait a minute. Who's going to buy this? None of your business. Just write them. Just write it. And the result of it was something that I was shocked over. And it took me until I was age 62 to write that book. I didn't think that, I said, well, men are not going to want to read the book because a woman wrote it. Write it. Just put it up there. And then the next and the next until I have 5. And I don't worry anymore. Like I just write it and whoever reads it, reads it. And I looked at it and they reflected so much metaphysical interpretations of stuff. I said, that had to be God because I wasn't into writing stuff like that then. But fine, it's there. And so get used to not having to know everything, not having to know how to do everything. Give God a chance to flow through you and know you and enjoy the aha moments. And they are your private moments. They are your private aha, your private feel goods. And that's what gives you courage because you know when you step out, God is going to give me the answer. I go to the ocean. I live like 15 minutes from the ocean. So I go there maybe 3-4 times a week. The ocean to me is like a picture of God because it's the biggest thing that I can imagine, right? It's just more than I can imagine. And I'm thinking, okay, this is God. And I watch the ocean flow and imagine that every wave that comes in is information for me. Every wave that comes in is an idea for me. God knows that I'm on this particular pier and that which I have asked for is coming to me. I don't have to get in it. There it is. Wonder what that was. Sure is a lot of ocean out there today. Sure is a lot of waves. Well, I must be getting a whole lot of stuff. I look at it like that. So you find your way of how God communicates with you. Start there, and then it will expand. I'm getting ready to learn how to read tarot cards. I never did it before. I speak to ascended masters. I have mentors that are spiritual. It's a conversation for another time. But there's tarot cards. I don't want God out there talking any way that I can't connect with. So let me try this. Somebody's going to teach me how to do it. And then, if necessary, I could use that. Did something go bump in the night and say, get some tarot cards? No. Somebody gave me a beautiful, beautiful set of Rumi tarot cards, right? They gave me this maybe 10 years ago. I never heard of Rumi or what tarot cards were. I knew nothing, nothing. They just gave it to me for my birthday. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do with it? I don't even know. And the print's too small. I can't even read it. But then I got to a place down the road in life where Rumi came and it's inserted himself in my life. And I was looking for something in a drawer and opened the drawer, and there's the tarot cards that a person gave me 10 years ago. That's how God speaks. That's how God works. And I said, well, it could have been a book. No, it's a beautiful book inside. And it's got about 150 tarot cards. I said, I guess I'm supposed to do something with this, huh, God? Okay. I'm looking for any day now somebody's gonna say, "Let me show you how to do that." I'm ready. Am I gonna open up a little tarot card stand or whatever? I doubt it. I doubt it, but it's here. It came to me in a magical way.
Yeah.
So I just, whatever God has for me, hey, I'm down. That's
Pull
good.
one.
Hmm?
Pull one.
Pull one?
Mhm.
That's what I didn't even know what pulling meant. Right? I said, what does it mean to pull a card? Okay. Oh, all right. It does it have anything on? Listen, I got to put these. Do I have a pair of glasses here? Let me see. These will
Just-
work. Let me see. Um, oh, beyond death and life. So I guess I'm supposed to like spirit will tell me what to say with these cards.
Beyond death and light.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I
Sure.
mean, that's cool. I'm open for it. I just, and then
Beyond.
it's a you do cards?
No. I'm familiar and I have people around me.
Okay, well, let me know. And I'm open to it because listen, these cards are fabulous. Can you see that? Like,
Oh
These are
wow. Those are
these
neat.
are, like these are very expensive. So I figured it must be I'm supposed to use them for something.
Yeah. Spirit speaks. It's like a synchronicity. But um there's various different tools and things that we've had and have, but we've been disconnected to the tools, right? Because of various belief systems. And I mean, heck, we are a big tool in terms of like us ourselves. We can do so much, but man, this is I knew it would be this way. I knew it would be amazing. And um I went extended because people are here and I know they're feeling it and connecting to it. We'll definitely have you for the new year. Um, there's a lot of big things I have in my heart, right, that I would like to continue to do and want to do. And as I kind of feel my way, right,
Hmm.
as I feel my way, it's been this coming November. It will be 1 year since I was doing this show with Carlton Bishop. He
Yeah.
transitioned. And actually, he stopped doing it probably this summer, and I just carried on with his show. But um, man, this has been incredible. I just really enjoyed myself. I hope everyone listened also did too, and I know they did because I see the comments. So on this link here, um, that's your link tree.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's my link tree.
Is that is everything's does that look like it's spelled right?
That looks like it's spelled right. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I'm gonna put that in the comments. I'm gonna put the direct link. So there's the direct link in the comments on YouTube, and I'm gonna also put it in on Facebook. So that what I would like for you, a lot of times we may cash app or figure out some kind of way that to honor you for coming here with us. One of the ways that I think I would love for people to honor is that you go live and you have a Zoom call multiple days a week.
Hmm.
You are also on Insight Timer.
Yeah.
And so you will, if you follow that link that I put there, it's right there on the, but if you follow that link, of course, she also has a website. You can go to her website, you can go to her YouTube. But I put the link tree on there because of the fact that you guys can go to her website. I mean, go to her YouTube channel. You can go to her Facebook channel, and you can. I mean, you can go start um, following some of these teachings because she's doing this. This is all she does,
This
right?
is
And so there's some amazing stuff on YouTube. There's some amazing teachings, and the thing is she also do some coaching. Um, and so we so appreciate you for your time, and I hope you had a wonderful time. That it was fun just to have a conversation and engage with like-minded people, right?
Really, I can't wait to read the comments. I feel like I was just like blah blah talking. So I'm going to read the comments already. I can see. Thank you so much for all the kind things that you said. And these comments will appear on YouTube, correct?
You gotta probably do YouTube and Facebook.
Okay, so if I see them and there's something that you have asked me directly, I really promise that I will get back to you as best. If there's a way for me to do it, I'll do that, or maybe I can give it to Coach Malachi, if that, because this is my life. This is God's life, and it's my life too. And I'm finally living the life that God had for me to come here. And you have no idea how wonderful that is. People are looking for millions of dollars. And if you have millions of dollars you want to give me, that would be fine. I'm not trying to say, that, I'll take it. But to be able to connect with God and do God, get out of the way and just let God flow. Finally, in this part of my life, I can't tell you how amazing that is. It's just incredible. And some people don't get to do that. So if you're here, you can make a decision to live the life that is in you, that God created for you. You can do that. And God will make a way for that to happen. And you will never be the same ever.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. It's good to to spend this time, and it's good to have everyone that's in the room. And we have and what happens is you'll just go to my Facebook page, and you could just go through the comments and talk to people, and most likely they're going to be coming doing the same to you. And that's just on my regular Facebook. I see you, Miss Gina. Hey, it's good to see you. We need to catch up. We need to catch up. And Miss Dolores, the same to you. I hope you're doing well, Miss Dolores in Detroit there. So awesome. The but the comments will remain, and plus you will probably get quite a few invites to your Facebook, and you'll see the family step in, and there'll be some some other mystics to join you. Hear your wonderful and great teaching. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're on the East Coast, but so it's a hour even more. So I appreciate it. And until next time, guys, we will I'll be back next week. We have a you may want to tap in. We have um Carl McKellen. He is a one of the biggest authors for Christian mysticism and on Amazon. He has probably one of the number one authors. Major books, big thick. I mean, these are major books. He can write textbooks on the topic, and he writes
Mhm.
on all mysticism. And he's going to come next week, and that's going to be a wonderful and fun time. So I appreciate you guys for all tapping in and tuning in, and Miss Carol, I'll end this live and then we'll come back here. But guys, until next time, you guys have a good one,
Can
right?
I just say thank you for having me?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for I'm really honored. It's I don't take anything for granted. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here to speak to your community and all the nice things that they said. That's just such a blessing. So thank you for that.
Yes.
I'm done.
Much appreciated. All right. Well, you guys, until next week, you have a good one.